welcome back to Whovian Espresso. Today we're going to be looking at another custom figure. Today it's from the Snowmen, the 2012 Doctor Who Christmas special starring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. And it is a snowman from the Snowmen. One of these killer snowmen always sort of looked very creepy to me, and I'm surprised, particularly I believe the 3.75 line was just about to dawn into existence at this point in time. I'm surprised we didn't even get a 3.75 action figure of the Snowman, because it seems like such a gimmicky thing that they could have done. We got an 11th Doctor from the Snowman, which I'm about to bring in to show you that actually I think I've quite accurately got the scale in. I think I'm quite happy with the scale with this one. Fun fact about the Snowman, I wasn't actually in the country when the Snowman aired in 2012. I was in America because of my aunt's, I think she wanted to do, basically she had a wedding in England and then she wanted to have her reception / wedding in America, so she flew us all out there for Christmas, and that's the only time I've been to America, so fun fact. I was super miffed because I believe BBC America was a thing, but I don't think the people I was staying with or where I was staying had BBC America. So yeah, that's a fun fact about the Snowman. Today we're going to be talking about this custom snowman. And I've seen various different customs of this because it is such a easy custom to do. Actually, I think it's one of the easiest ones that you can do because you're basically building a snowman but out of milliput. I think it's a very simple one in terms of detail as well. There's not much detail that you can add. I've sort of added some snow detail on this, although I don't think I've done it as well as I've seen on other customs. I think definitely if you look at other customs of this, I think Joe Cook or / Rebel Whovian on YouTube, I believe, did a fabulous snowman custom. You can check out pictures on his Instagram, and I believe he did a YouTube video about it. But this is sort of what I based this on. I think it's slightly different, as I'll go into. I've sort of slightly altered the process here. As you can see, I don't think the head's quite even, which is a bit annoying, but I've used a different snow texture because I couldn't quite work out what Joseph Cook used to do the snow effect. So because I had a massive order of food once and it all came in a massive cool box of polystyrene, I basically just ripped that apart and sprinkled that on top to get my snow effect. I think it's quite effective. I think it works reasonably well, but the thing I like the most is the head sculpt. I'm quite happy with the head sculpt. I like how I've got the teeth and the blackened out eyes and mouth. I think it's really effective. If I was going to say something about how, if I was going to do this again, how I'd do it differently, I would probably paint in the mouth first, because if you look right at the centre, I don't know if you'll pick it up on camera, I'm trying to hold this gently, because if you hold it too roughly, then the bits of snow fall off, and I don't want to do that. I don't know if you can see, but you probably can't tell because the lighting. Really, it's fine really, because as you go in deeper you can't really tell because it's dark anyway. But the centre of it isn't actually that well painted, so that's not very well done, I suppose. But otherwise I think the sculpt, is one of my favourite sculpts because it's just a simple snowman design. I think I've been able to get the sort of shape. I think it could have been rounder maybe, particularly around the edges, but I'm happy with the way it is. It is a very heavy sculpt, but actually when I wasn't actually doing this to scale. I don't really try and think about scale with any of them because I'm just trying to think of a quality, trying to get some kind of quality custom out of it. But actually when I got this and I got my B&M 11th Doctor from the Snowman, I actually realised it's actually quite nicely in scale there. I was really quite happy with the scale there. I think it works quite nicely and they look very nice together. I was going to make a custom of this at some point with a hat and a scarf because he does wear a hat and a knitted scarf in the episode, I noticed, because I've been watching it recently. And I thought that would be a nice custom to do, but, we'll see. Maybe at some point, but I think they look quite nice together. Particularly if you get the Yeti custom. Hang on. Let me just get my Yeti. And you have a sort of enemies, sort of villains and monsters of the great intelligence there. I don't know. I kind of like the Yeti. I kind of wish they brought the Yeti back instead of the Snowman, but I still think it's a nice little collection. I have a little great intelligence monsters, sort of like a B&M set, I guess. Monsters of the great intelligence. That sounds like a B&M set or some kind of set. But either way, I think all these customs look really, they don't always look so good next to each other like regular action figures on the shelf, but I do think all the customs do look really nice together. So yeah, that is basically a quick look at the Snowman. I'm going to do a brief tutorial with some pictures that I managed to take whilst I was making it to show you how I made this sort of roughly. So yeah, let's get on with that. So here you can see the basic shape. Again, I have used a loo roll base because I thought it's kind of, to get that sort of height, I think if you do use a loo roll, actually, because you can fit it in quite easily, you don't have to make it a solid milliput thing. I mean, it's pretty heavy enough even if you don't use like a whole milliput statue. So for this, I basically got a loo roll, filled it with polystyrene as I usually do, because it's just something to fill the centre of it. And I tell you, that order, it came with loads of polystyrene. Like, I've still not even used like half of it. Like, I probably haven't used a full, but like, it's like a box. So I stripped the box apart and I took like all the different pieces. I haven't even used one whole those pieces. So there's plenty of polystyrene, and I've got nothing better to use with it. So I fill my customs with it. So yeah, as you can see then, and then I've made a base, I've sort of extended the base with milliput to sort of give it a wider base. So it does sort of come in at the top, sort of like an actual snowman would, like you would sculpt it down or pat down the snow. So I've tried to replicate that as much as I could with a wider base, and then I built up from that with coils, as you're about to see. But I've also, to give it a bit more stability the whole way around, so it doesn't just like go from being really wide to really, you know, not wide, really thin again. I also put some lollipop sticks in. I say lollipop sticks, they're actually wooden picnic knives that I stole from M&S. Well, I say stole, they kind of give them away for free, really, so, you know. But basically, I snapped the actual knife bit off that. They're not that sharp, but I feel like I have a moral obligation to tell people who are watching this not to do this at home, because Blue Peter, everyone, you know. But yeah, anyway, that's the knife. I snapped the edge off, and I basically just sort of, to give it a bit of a wider base the whole way around so it doesn't just get really thin all of a sudden. So yeah, that's what I did there to make it sort of, so yeah, because I feel like a lot of the ways that it could have done it, I could have just done a round toilet roll and had that be the snowman, but I kind of wanted to have that sort of edge. But also I don't have that much milliput because milliput is actually quite expensive. So yeah, that's the way I did that. But yeah, that is the sort of basic shape. So here you can see I've added more coils, wrapped them around the sort of underbase, the undergarments, I guess, in a way. And then I've sort of patted them down, sort of smudged them together to make sort of one being. I also sort of tried to smooth it out as much as possible. I know snow isn't exactly smooth, but I feel like I don't think it would have looked good if I hadn't smoothed it out, so I smoothed it out, and then I added more coils. The finished base for the snowman, that's basically what its main body looked like before I painted it and added the polystyrene to make the snowflakes. I did have to add another ring on the top, but it was like really thin because I couldn't have added a normal sized coil to go around that, otherwise it would have just overtaken the top of the snowman. And I wanted it to look as natural as possible. Like snowmen, you don't usually get these sort of jagged shapes, otherwise it'd sort of like fall over or sort of just not really work. But I just wanted it to be as smooth, because I know these snowmen in the episode are sort of more round. Like there's a lot of roundness in their main body. But at least it couldn't, like, I saw the Robert Harrop figure and it was very, like, tall and round. But I don't know, you don't really see much of the main bodies in the episode, you just sort of see from the neck up. So it's quite hard to get a picture of an entire snowman that isn't, because at the start of the episode you have what's his name? I can't remember his name exactly. The character Richard Grant plays as a child, and you see that whole snowman, but I imagine that snowman being a lot smaller than the other snowmen in the story. Like, the snowmen are actually in the story very little, actually. They don't actually do much. But yeah, the threat is very omnipresent. They're always there. We just have to imagine that, but the CGI budget wouldn't allow for them to be in longer. I don't know. But yeah, so I kind of wanted it to be as natural as possible, but particularly that way that I smudged the head in, which we'll get onto in a minute. Here you could see the beginning of the face where I sculpted it. That is pretty much entirely milliput. I think I put like a little block of polystyrene in the back just because I was at the end of the packet and I didn't want to start a new packet. I ended up starting a new packet anyway because I had to sculpt the teeth on, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I realised that I could have put that milliput in if I wanted to, but oh well, that's life, I suppose. But yeah, so there is literally pretty much entirely milliput. That's one of the few things that is nearly entirely milliput. But that's the beginning of the head. I sculpted it out with my sort of craft tool. I don't know what you call it. Is it like a... Because it's not really a knife, because it's got a rubber pen nib. I don't know. Just like moulding tool, I guess. I don't know. I've never really looked into the name. I just bought it in the shop and thought, yeah, this will sculpt. But yeah, this is why I'm very inexperienced at this. You haven't tell. I don't know how many customs. I made quite a few customs now, actually. So I'm quite happy with how these are coming along, but I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so I basically tried to sculpt that out as much as possible. I didn't sculpt the teeth on until afterwards. I maybe should have done that. This is why I put this picture in, because I kind of wish I had left that to dry and then put the paint on to paint the mouth, because then the paint apps would be more even, I think. But yeah, it's just a minor nitpick, I guess. Basically the finished sculpt there, that's with the teeth, and this was before I sculpted on the teeth, I thought it kind of looked like Jack Skellington. I guess it kind of still does look a bit like Jack Skellington. He does have that, I think Jack Skellington does actually have a very sort of snowman-like quality to his head. He's like a twig thin though, which is a bit odd, but I don't know, he's supposed to be like a skeleton, I guess, but he does have snowman-like features. But yeah, but that's basically a full sculpt before like I added paint and stuff and polystyrene. I did have, as I mentioned before, I did have to add a little tiny ring just to join the head to the body, because the head wasn't quite big enough. And again, I don't know, maybe I could have made it bigger, but at this point it was drying very quickly, so you know, I had to make some sacrifices. But yeah, that's basically what I did to make the full sculpt. So in this photo you can see I've started to apply paint. Again, painting on milliput is sort of like painting on plastic, so you do have to keep going over and over. I mean, it's better than painting on sellotape, I suppose, but it does have that sort of plasticky feel to it. So it is quite hard to paint. You have to do several layers if you don't want to see the greenness, particularly when you're painting in a really light colour like white. You have to really get lots of layers over it. I think I did make a couple of paint app mistakes. I think a lot of the black bleeds onto some of the white sort of snow effect, but that's before I painted the face anyway, so the paint on the is really hard to do with you have to get a really small brush to get some of the paint apps in, particularly with the mouth, particularly because I added the teeth before I painted out. That's definitely something I'd consider when making this again. So here is the final product. I did actually, when I was doing one of the coats, I did actually mix in really fine, well, I tried to get as fine as possible, but it's really hard to get polystyrene fine. I did contemplate putting it in the blender, but I just decided that probably wouldn't be such a good idea, so I went against that. But yeah, I did sort of try and cut it finely, and I did put it in some white acrylic paint. I did paint it with white acrylic and black acrylic, obviously, but I put it in the paint, and I think it's helped it harden onto the sculpt. I think if I had just stuck it on, it would have probably fallen off a lot more. So I think that's something to bear in mind if you were to try and make this yourself, is definitely try and put the polystyrene bits or whatever snow texture you're going to do in the paint, because it helps it stick to the actual figurine, I guess, a bit better. But yeah, that's basically the finished project. And what do you know? I was watching Doctor Who when I was making this. Yeah, there's the end credits for probably Last of the Time Lords. I think I was watching Last of the Time Lords, but that's a quality episode. Bit of an naff ending, but otherwise a quality episode. So that's the figurine. I hope you enjoyed this video. I did enjoy making this custom. I think it kind of blends in well. I think out of all the customs I've done, I think it's the one that blends in the best with the rest of the action figures. I have got another custom in the works that's sort of pretty much nearly complete. I just need to finish painting it, but that'll be a story for another day. But yeah, that one will probably blend in quite well with the other action figures, because I haven't actually done that much from it. It's based on it's got an actual figure base that exists already, so that doesn't work. That will probably fit in quite well, I hope. But this is the first pure custom that I've done that I think fits in quite well with the rest of the figures on the shelf. I think it blends in well with the Matt Smith Doctor. It would make, I think it's such a shame that we didn't get a snowman two-part 2-pack. I think that would have been like a nice little duo pack. You could have had the Doctor from the Snowman, which is obviously a figure we got, and a snowman. So that would have been a nice figure. I mean, they were thinking about the 3.75 range at the time, so I understand why we didn't get it, but it would have been nice. I mean, a whole Series 7 like action figure line in 5-inch would have been nice. I would have appreciated that, to be honest. I mean, some of the 3.75 figures were alright. I think I've only got like 2 actual figures left. I think I've got a Skovok Blitzer and I think it would be a Dalek from Power of the Daleks, but apart from that, I don't think I actually have any of my 3.75 figures anymore. I've long got rid of them, so... But yeah, we didn't even get a 3.75 figure of a snowman, so it's kind of disappointing, but I understand why, because they were in the middle of transferring and everything, but yeah. So overall, I'm quite happy with this custom. I'm sure I'd like to know your thoughts on it, I guess, in the comments section down below. If you like this video, like the video in this the sort of below section, like the comments. I don't think anyone's ever said it like that, like in the below section. Like down below, and subscribe down below if you want to get updates on upcoming content and reviews. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.